And the Washington Redskins defeated the Chicago Bears today at Soldier Field in a blowout to the tune of 41-21. We're really excited about it here on the Hogstein. We're going to talk about it next, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Hogstein with your crew, Adam Taraski, Alex Zeese, Sean Conti, and Steve Thomas. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
And we are back. Thanks for joining us. I am Steve Thomas here. We have a small crew because of the Christmas holiday, so
But it's all good. We can knock it out with us too.
There you go. That was the voice of Jamal Forrest. Jamal, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. The Redskins didn't ruin my Christmas weekend, so I'm straight. I'm good to go. What about you?
Because they've ruined a lot of my Christmas, holidays over the years, and so I'm really glad that this one went well, and it was a great weekend to have them play their most complete game of the year.
Yeah, I feel that way too, and I think that especially against the Bears, where a lot of people thought it was a trap game. I definitely did. I said it on the preview. Thought it was going to be a trap game, and they came out and they beat Chicago down. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
or satisfied is what I should say. I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I thought it was going to maybe not be a trap game, but it was going to be a low-scoring game that they had a potential to lose. And I guess that just goes to show what, when you have 5 interceptions, what happens. But let's start off the top with the playoff scenarios. Now that we know that the Redskins won, and as we are recording this is Saturday afternoon, right after the early games ended. So we know that Atlanta won their game against Carolina, and we know Green Bay won their game against Minnesota. So what this does to us in terms of playoff scenarios is we can't catch Atlanta anymore, so that's out.
Nope. I think it comes down to Tampa and Detroit and Green Bay, correct?
That is exactly right. If Tampa or Green Bay loses one of their next 2 games, or Detroit loses both of their next 2 games, and we beat the Giants, that's how we get into playoffs. Now, Tampa's got New Orleans this afternoon. They've got Carolina next week. Green Bay has Detroit next week.
That should be for the division title right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So.
And Detroit has Dallas Monday night, and then Green Bay, as I just said. So, if the Redskins can do what they need to do against the Giants, who truly have nothing to play for, we stand a good chance that one of these teams are going to lose. It seems to me, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the way the odds are lining up for us, it goes in our favor, and I think that when it comes to Detroit specifically, they're on a rough patch. You got the Cowboys on the road, and then you got to go to face Green Bay, a high Aaron Rodgers team at home. And I think when it comes to the Redskins, if they can handle their business against the Giants team, which is never going to be a cakewalk, but like you said, they may have nothing to play for. They may be able to sneak into the playoffs after blowing 2 opportunities early for the 6th seed. They lost to Carolina Monday night, and then prior to that, obviously they choked against not choked, but they blew another chance against the Cardinals. So
they didn't play well.
We're playing okay right now. We got the win that we're supposed to, but obviously it comes down to New York, man. We're 1 for 2. We got to go 2 for 2 now.
Yeah, well, and the good news is that the New York game is in D.C.
Absolutely.
So that gives us a little bit of benefit. But to me, there's a bigger issue here, a bigger good thing, which is we secured a winning record on the season now because we have 8 victories. We're 8-6-1, and it's been a really long time since we've had
back-to-back records,
2 winning reasons. Yeah, it's been a long. I can't remember right off the top of my head how long it's been. I don't know if
it's late 90s, like around 97 or 96, something around that area with North Turner, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And so that if nothing else shows that we're moving in the right direction, even if we've had some stumbles along the way.
And that's how I feel too, specifically as far as this franchise in general. I think with the culture change, I believe that started, honestly, in my opinion, it started with Scott and Jay, teaming up together and being confident in their decisions. And I think that progress is starting, regardless of what happens at the end of the season. We should be okay. I know we're all giddy after this win, but obviously we gotta remind ourselves, regardless of what happens at the end of the season, uh, changes coming for the better, and we'll continue to improve. I,
Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be a column by me in the near term future here as soon as I can get around to writing it. But, I've been really hard on Jay, and I have a mea culpa of some sorts because he's really become a better coach. I thought he was a terrible coach in his first
yeah,
year.
he
He
didn't
did a
handle it
really poor
well at
job.
all.
No, he didn't at all. But in the next, and especially this year, he's been good. He's adjusted, and we can talk about that
Yeah,
later.
definitely.
But congrats to Jay, certainly. All right, let's do this game here. Let's just talk about the Redskins offense first. Let me run through some game stats before we break it down. Kirk Cousins was 18 of 29 for 270 yards, one touchdown in the air and two on the ground. He had a quarterback rating of
No
104.1.
turnovers.
Our Yeah, no turnovers, which is good. Mac Brown was our leading rusher today, 8 carries, 82 yards, thanks to his final 61-yard scamper late in the fourth quarter. Robert Kelly, the workhorse, 19 carries, 76 yards, long of 15, no touchdowns, and one small injury, best we can tell. Kirk Cousins had 30 yards rushing today. In the air, Deshaun Jackson, 5 receptions, 114 yards. He was injured today. We'll talk about that. Pierre Garcon, 4 receptions, 94 yards. We had another Ryan Grant sighting, 3 receptions, 25 yards. Chris Thompson, 1 catch. Vernon Davis had a catch. Robert Kelly had 2 catches. He had a pretty bad drop there early in the
Yeah.
game. Jameson Crowder sighting. He's really fallen off the map. And Maurice Harris got in the game, but no catches. So that is offense today. Jamal, what are your overall thoughts about the offense today?
Well, we talked about it throughout the week. I think the biggest thing is we had our criticisms of Sean McVay and Jay Gruden in terms of how they ran this offense, and it was just so blatant how they abandoned the run so soon. And in most of these games, especially the ones that we've lost, I think we're on 5 when we haven't ran for more than 20 attempts, and I think that this week has shown specifically if with these 2 games left you needed a wake up call, and these guys woke up and they delivered. Specifically in terms of play calling, these guys ran it for I believe 35 rushing attempts. Obviously Kirk had 5 of those carries, but 35 rushing attempts just on the stat board, and they maintained balance throughout the game. They had over 200 yards rushing, and they're now 8-1-1 with 20 plus rushing attempts on the season. If that doesn't tell the coaching staff, this is the formula that works for this offense and works for this team. I don't know what will convince them otherwise, but this is absolutely a great showing offensively, and we don't have to look at Kirk's 300 plus yard game to see what he's doing. He's effective when he has a great ground game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this isn't a case of the Redskins grinding it out in the fourth quarter necessarily. Because just to go over run pass. At the first quarter it was 8 runs, 10 passes, which is more than
Yep.
acceptable. At the halftime, 19 runs, 7 passes. Third quarter was 28 to 25 passes, and like you said, at the end of the game, 35 to 29, even including
Yep.
Kirk's. And Kirk had the one quarterback sneak. He had that naked boot there for that went for the
Yep.
touchdown, and I think the other 3 were scrambles more so than called running plays. Let's if we can talk about that the Cousins naked bootleg. I couldn't tell whether that was a read option or Kirk just pulled it right on his own. It was kind of hard to tell for
Well,
me.
I called it a read option in my head, just specifically off the looks
Yeah,
that we usually see throughout the season. So either way, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you're right either way because if it was a boot, he kept it. A naked boot, he kept it, or a read option.
yeah,
But the good thing is that, and surprisingly, is the fact that he was able to outrun a guy who was basically hogging him down, and he was still able to outrun him to the edge and score that touchdown. So it was great. And on top of that one design rush for Kirk, I was real impressed by his ability to manipulate the pocket, and even when it didn't look well downfield, he took off on scrambles. And I think that's the thing that we fans wanted to see from him is the fact that you see him looking down the field too often, not wanting to use his legs, and he was able to do it to perfection today, extending drives, and he took some shots in the pocket as well, delivering the ball with confidence. And I think that Kirk, he had a solid game. I wouldn't say it's one of his best games, but in the time that we needed it, this offense delivered, and Kirk Cousins, he held his own and made some plays for this team.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Kirk is actually more athletic than a lot of people give him credit for. Because, like you said, he doesn't really do that often.
You
I
have
think
to beg this
today,
man to do that, man.
yeah, I know, but he doesn't usually have that kind of room either.
I agree.
There were some wide open looks for whatever reason. I don't know if it was. It's hard to see without the all-22, but there was. If this, I don't know if the safeties dropped back, the backers, stayed
Okay.
home, or what the deal was. But there was a lot more room, I think, today. But generally speaking, yeah, he even he didn't get hit that much. I counted 3 solid hits on Kirk, and one of those was on a screen. So that's kind of designed to take a hit a little bit. He didn't. There wasn't really a ton of pressure on him, and that kind of allowed him to look downfield. But listen about the play calling. I mean, my God, we aired it out today more than I think we've
Yeah,
done
he took
maybe
some
all year
shots, man.
long.
He took some shots.
He did. I counted 5 deep balls today. Not all of them were great passes,
Yeah.
frankly. Some. He's not the greatest deep ball thrower in the world, but
Even the
he
intermediate range, he
completed a
was real
couple.
accurate. It was impressive.
Yeah, he
It was
was.
real impressive.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he was. And it's just really abnormal for this coaching staff to call that many deep balls. I don't know if again that could have been Kirk, on the reads, it wasn't necessarily the first read design play called deep. We don't really know that, but it was impressive to see both a run pass balance
Yeah.
and going deep like that because I think that really kept the Bears defense completely off balance because they don't know what to protect
Yeah,
against.
I was thinking when you were talking, I was thinking maybe it had something to do with Tracy Porter because if you remember during the broadcast, they were saying he may have been injured playing for them guys, so it may have been something that they saw of Rips and decided to attack that weakness because they definitely hit Pierre Garcon in that deep bomb on the sideline. They was attacking Tracy Porter definitely on that play, and Tracy Porter had a hard time keeping up with them guys. And I think the Deshaun one over
Yeah,
the
and
middle, where he accelerated and got away from them guys. I think that was on Tracy Porter too.
I think you're right, and he was pretty clearly, had a knee problem, like the coaches said. I think Deshaun probably could run away from Tracy Porter, even though
Yeah,
even
that's
when
true.
healthy.
Absolutely.
You know, the Bears probably would have done themselves justice by trying to rotate that coverage to somebody else, maybe. But it's all good, all better for us. Let's talk about Rob Kelly here a little bit. And while you were talking, I was sitting here trying to figure out his injury status. Don't know, but I think we really saw a classic Rob Kelly today. He didn't break any long ones, but there were
He was just
several
solid.
carries, maybe 4 or 5, just solid. Several carries, maybe 4 or 5, where he was hitting the backfield and managed to at least get back to the line of scrimmage on it, or make a yard or two. So he's a quality back in that regard. I don't think he's going to the Hall of Fame or anything, but he's a solid back who's not going to cost us
Yeah.
team.
What did he finish with on the season, on the game? Sorry about that.
On the game, he finished with 76 yards on the game. He didn't really play the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
Mac Brown took all the carries in the fourth
Okay,
quarter.
yeah. I just felt in terms of Kelly when I was jotting down my notes, I just felt this was probably one of his better games since the Vikings or Cincy game. Obviously, Green Bay that was on another level, but I think he played
Yeah.
another type Vikings or Cincy game where those were basically hard earned yards, and he worked for every single yard. And I think that him and what's the name? Mac Brown did a hell of a job, even though Mac Brown was in garbage time in terms of the scoreboard. But I just think both of them they have some of the similar traits in terms of vision in the backfield when it's in traffic around their feet. Their footwork is excellent, and obviously we know what Robert Kelly can do. So I think those two they played a pretty good game, and Rob was Rob.
Yeah. And I think that was the first time really all year Mac Brown's got extended carries.
Yep.
And like you, I was really impressed with his footwork. I didn't really realize Mac Brown had that kind of talent inside him. He does run a lot like Rob Kelly in that
Yeah, that's
regard.
awesome.
He can make quick cuts. I don't think he's necessarily the fastest guy in the world, although he
Did you
did
see
run
that
away from the
burst? Did you
secondary.
see that burst on that
Yeah.
touchdown, man?
Oh my God! Yeah, he ran away from everybody there. True, but he's got some moves, and I think he's a solid backup. As a matter of fact, you will have to see what happens in the offseason between these two guys. Because they both run similar, and it may come down to who knows what. And the good news is neither one of them has fumbled.
Yeah.
We've solved that problem. It was getting really old seeing Matt Jones fumble the ball constantly. Pierre Garcon had a good day
Solid.
today.
Him and
Yes,
Deshaun Pierre is just another guy, and it's crazy because over the past few weeks he's been getting a lot of looks downfield, and it's crazy because a lot of people, especially me, I haven't I haven't necessarily said he wasn't a deep threat, but at the same time, I felt just because of the lack of attempts down the field, I felt I had a drawn in my head that he was bad at tracking the ball down the field. But that's just not the case. For some reason, I can't specifically say why, but he's actually getting open downfield, and Kirk Cousins is delivering downfield. It used to seem like there was some type of awkwardness or lack of chemistry in terms of deep balls thrown to Garcon, but it's crazy how solid he's been playing, especially on the
I
deep
think
balls.
Yeah, and I think Kirk threw one of his best balls of the year to Garcon on that deep ball. On the it was either of any. You're right about him in the deep balls because that was either a straight up fly pattern or an out and
One of
up, one
them,
or the other.
yeah.
It was a sideline route, yeah, and that's not something you normally see Garcon running downfield, but he had at least a step on that guy, and if Kirk hadn't hit the pass right as he had, it probably wouldn't have been complete. So it was kudos to Kirk on that ball, and I don't know how Garcon found the burst on that, but he did. We'll have to see that one in
Quick question.
122.
So
Yeah.
if you're Scott,
hmm
are you signing both, or are you still keeping one?
I think we need to sign both. I mean, I read your column, about it. What was it last week?
Yeah,
2 weeks
something like
ago?
that. A couple weeks ago.
Yeah. To me, I'm just so torn. I go back and forth. I may give you a different answer next week.
Shoot, that's how I feel.
But my deal is that Deshaun Jackson, man, he's an elite talent, and you can't just throw another speed guy out there and do what he does because he tracks that ball real well. He's got an incredible burst. He's special. He's one of the better deep threats
Did
ever
you
in the game. If you
Oh,
start
sorry
looking at
about
his
that. Did you
numbers,
notice that he's starting to work a lot of areas of the field now? Because
yes,
he's well over the middle now. He's not just working the seam routes. He's hitting the drags and the digs and all this type of stuff. It's pretty. It's
and
fun.
I think before the past couple weeks, you could count the number of times he ran a drag route on one hand.
Yeah,
Probably, that's just not something he did, in the early days. So yeah, but Pierre, though, as you pointed out in your column, I mean, the guy is Mr. Consistency. He's almost kind of a better Art Monk. Or
Oh.
maybe a modern day. Let me back up
Oh, I
before
wasn't.
I
No,
get
I wasn't even.
assassinated by.
I was listening to. I was open to hearing what
No,
your,
no,
your
no, no.
comparison
Well,
was.
Art Monk's in the Hall of Fame. It's really not a fair comparison, But I see a lot of similarities in how Art and Pierre Garcon approach the wide receiver position. Put it
Okay.
that way. They have outstanding hands. They have a lot of physical toughness. Neither one of them are the fastest speed guys in the world, but they can run the entire route tree successfully.
Yeah, I respect that.
And yeah, and when you need tough yards, especially when Jordan Reed isn't out there, Kirk is usually looking to Pierre Garcon. Now, Pierre's got a long way to go to match, Art's production, career production, but I see similarities in the way they play.
And I think one thing that makes it easy for these guys, and we go back to the ground game. I think that obviously it show, and you spoke on this about 5 minutes ago, maybe sooner. Just the defense just of Chicago just didn't know what to do specifically with this offense. This ground game made it so easy for this offense to call any type of play call that they wanted, and it's fun to watch these guys when they're able to stick to a ground game. We pounded them over and over again that they stray away from it, and the ground game just made it so easy for D Jackson, Pierre Garcon. They had open looks pretty much throughout the game when they were targeted. It was fun. It was fun to look at it.
Yeah, it really was. And I don't know if people who are just kind of casual fans and who never played and don't pay attention to the game really grasp how important it is to have, even if the run game isn't that successful, to have a significant number of running plays called simply because it forces the safeties and the linebackers to stay home. They can't cheat they can't cheat, on the pass coverage deep. It really opens things up. And I think the sweet spot for Kirk is kind of where we were
Yep.
today. He had 29 attempts, 270 yards. He's not the type of quarterback that can throw 45, what was it last week? 47,
Something close
47
to
balls
it,
a
yeah.
game and win. And that's not even really a knock on Kirk. I mean, you've got, a couple quarterbacks in the game who can do that. Tom Brady, guys like that. So it's not something we should rely on. So, do you have any final thoughts on O before we move to defense?
I just, yeah, I do. Basically, with a week left in the season, it comes down to this. I feel like this offense in general, they have the code. It's simple. just keep believing in the ground game, regardless of what the results are. Keep chipping at it, and I think that it'll work. It'll work out for these guys. I think that this game shown that, and obviously over the course of over the year, it'll work if they decide to stick to it. And we just have to keep nailing that point because we just know how quick it is for these guys to abandon it. We just hope it doesn't happen when it really comes.
Yeah, because I mean, we've had this before where Jay sticks to the running game for a 1 week and then he abandons it again the next week. So we'll have to see. Hopefully he'll stick to it. Chicago Bears. Matt Barkley was 24 for 40, 323 yards. That sounds like a good game, huh? 2 touchdowns. That's pretty awesome. Oh, 5 interceptions.
He was in the Christmas. He was in the Christmas spirit, Steve.
It was a giving. He was in a giving mood. They did run all over us like every team does. 26 carries, 140 yards. Jordan Howard did pretty much what we thought. 18 carries, 119 yards. He was a little banged up there too. Jeremy Langford had 7 carries, 19 yards. Cameron Meredith had just a huge game. 9 receptions, 135 yards, 1 touchdown.
130?
Yeah, it was 135. It kind of snuck up on us a little bit. Alshon Jeffrey had 5 receptions, 92 yards. I think we need to talk about him a little bit. Deontay Thompson had the 1 touchdown, 3 catches, and it goes down from there. In terms of Washington defense, like we said, the 5 interceptions, Norman Breland had 2, Blackman had 1. Sacks, Preston Smith had really 2 sacks. 1 got called back via penalty. And that was all the pressure there was. Our leading tackler today was Mason Foster with 8 total tackles. So let's start with pass defense, shall we?
Yeah.
What was going on in our pass defense that caused us to get all these interceptions?
I think it has a lot to do with Preston, honestly, because if I may be wrong, I could look back later, but I think 3 of the INTs had a lot to do with Preston Smith being in the face of Matt Barkley. I just know one of them specifically was when Breland picked him off the second time, where I think he got a hand on Matt Barkley's arm or something like that and forced the air throw.
That was the one that sailed way high. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah.
So and I think that Preston Smith had a heck of a game because I don't know if you noticed like me where Ryan Kerrigan went MIA today. And I just it's not a knock, you have those type of games, but at the same time. It's perfect timing for Preston because this is a game where we needed it because it was pressure. Obviously, it was in and out. It was never consistent. But when pressure got home, it was Preston Smith, and there was a play being made. In terms of the secondary, I think those breakdowns, we know that's going to happen because this defense just isn't that good in the back end. But in terms of those wide open ones, specifically the 3rd and 18 early on. I think that had a lot to do with because I tweeted this. It had a lot to do with the amount of time Matt Barkley had. I think he had about 4 or 5 seconds, and for any professional quarterback, and Steve, you play ball, any professional quarterback, he could pick you apart no matter who it is. 4 seconds in a zone where Mason Foster, it seemed he had his I forgot who caught the pass, but he had his person who was checking. But for some reason, he got past him behind him. He wasn't looking at him. So after those 4 seconds passed, he got past and got free for an 18-yard game.
Well, yeah, I mean, speaking as a guy who was a mediocre DB at one point in time, it is really hard to stick with somebody for more than a couple seconds. You really just can't do it, particularly when you have athletic limitations like Mason Foster, for example. Even a guy like Josh Norman, he's not the fastest guy in the world. You put him against a little speedy guy, at some point, that's going to go badly, even for a talent like Josh Norman. And let's just go to the Alshon Jeffrey, the long ball. It was against Josh Norman. They were man-to-man coverage on that play. Or at least Norman was man on Alshon Jeffries. Yeah. He got the ball. It happens, Norman played pretty good, darn good coverage. It looks like he got turned around at the very last possible minute.
Yeah, I think he turned in the wrong way. You might be able to fill this in a little bit better than I was because I had to use the bathroom. So when I came back in, I heard the catch, but I didn't see it. So but I do remember seeing a bit of the replay before the game continued that he was I guess he had his back towards Barkley, and Alshon was able to catch it on the outside. I guess the outside shoulder towards
It was
Yeah,
outside
so
shoulder. Yeah.
that's what I did see, but you could break it down better than I can.
Yeah, I think Josh tracked the ball in the air badly there at the tail end, is what happened because he was in great position to make a play on the
Uh-huh.
ball. He wasn't going to get an interception, but I think he could have got a hand on there. But he turned his body slightly the wrong way because I think he thought the ball was going to track more inside than it did, and that was what. And when that gave Alshon just a little bit of space to reel in the ball, and Barkley threw it in the perfect spot. I mean, perfect
Yeah, you throw it
spot.
to Alshon like
So
that, he gonna make that snap.
yeah, exactly right. So it was pretty good coverage. I mean, look, it happens. Even the best of these DBs gets beat
Yeah.
sometimes. Alshon got the better of him. It's as simple as that. But I think it had to do with where Josh was tracking the ball in the air. Looked to me like just on the fly at
Yeah,
least.
well, Norman ended up with them two INTs, so I'm pretty sure he's not tripping off that one catch. Him and Breland, who Breland, oh my goodness, he had a rough season so far. And last week he had a decent
He
game, and he
has.
followed it up this week with two INTs. And do you think I'm not sure, but was the first INT was he playing at safety early on? Do you think that?
I can't remember. I didn't make that note to myself in my
Okay,
head, so I would tend to think not, just because I didn't catch it. But I'm not perfect either. With that, maybe that's something. Let's remind ourselves this week, and we'll go
yep,
back and look
definitely.
on all
Okay.
22 and figure it
Yeah,
out
that's
on
exactly
that
it. But
one.
he was moving to the ball. He was fine. He did a way better job than Dante Whitner, who I still don't know what he was looking at. And this is a common theme that we've been saying for some time now. Like, what the hell is he looking at? But Breland came in and saved the day because if I think Dante would have gotten in the way of Norman's INT if Breland wasn't there because Norman had a chance at it
Oh
too.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that was yeah. I think so. Definitely. It looked like all three of them were kind of going for it, and Josh Norman had the athletic ability to kind of pull back on it just enough to let Breland, reel it in. But I do think that Whitner was almost in the way. I don't know if I mean. God bless Dante Whitner. The man's earning a paycheck for his family, and I'm not going to criticize him
Yeah,
for it. But I don't get it, man. I really don't. I don't know if he's got naked pictures of Jay Gruden or what's going on. But I don't get why he's starting. I don't think he has the athletic ability. It seems like his instincts have gone a little bit. It's
he's
weird
very
because he was a good
yeah,
player at one point in
definitely,
time.
and I think a two-time Pro Bowler, three-time Pro Bowler. I just feel like
Hmm.
now he plays very slow. He reacts slow is what I should say. He's obviously
Yeah.
he can move. He's smart. He has smarts, but it's just recently it just seems that he doesn't get it. Like the first couple of weeks with Whitner, he was playing okay. They brought him in here to be a person who can stop the run at the safety position, who could fill in the hole, play in the box. And for some reason, they've been having him in coverage way more often than he should be, and he's just been getting exposed in that aspect. And I think we got lucky that Zach Miller was not playing today because if Zach
Yeah.
Miller was in, he Dante Winter has been getting exposed by fast tight ends recently, and um, I'm just really glad that they didn't have him playing because well he's on IR obviously, but Dante Winter has his issues in coverage and
It would
it
have
would
been
have been
ugly.
ugly. I agree.
I've got a good. Here's a Josh Norman quote that's come out of the locker room talk here. This is courtesy of John Keim, who's the ESPN Redskins beat writer. Redskins corner Josh Norman said he was, quote, pissed off and disrespected in the first half, and he said it's why he picked off two passes in the second half and tipped the one that resulted in a pick for Bashad Breeland. So, I guess it's like Josh going Kobe Bryant and pulling motivation wherever
All
he
right,
can. Whatever works for you, man, I
whatever
guess.
works because we needed it, and I think uh, since we're talking about these turnovers, this is
Yeah.
something that has been lacking all year. In terms of just creating turnovers with ease, like this is the secondary that I figured was going to be present early in the season. You had Breland coming back, you had Norman coming back. I'm not sure about the safety position. It was always a question mark, and it was never going to be like a solid position in terms of that group. But at the corner position alone, you would have thought that these guys would have been able to handle their own and create some type of turnovers. And I think these two, Brashad Breeland and Josh Norman, they went out and made plays. These are things that we've been asking these guys to do, to make plays, not just bat the ball down, not just make the tackle, but do something. Do
Yeah.
something when you see the ball. And Josh Norman has been able to force fumbles. but he's also dropped a lot of ints, a lot of them.
Like 4 or 5, like four or
Yes,
five.
4 or 5. Matter of fact, probably more than 4 or 5 because he dropped 3 or 4 alone in the Cincy game, and then he dropped one
Yeah.
last week. So, who knows how many what the count is? But these guys attacked the ball when they saw it, and I'm glad to see Rashad Breeland force a couple turnovers, and I'm glad to see Josh Norman make plays as well.
Yeah, now let's be honest. I mean, of course, at least two of those interceptions were just because of atrocious throws by Matt
Yeah,
Barkley, just the worst. And but the bottom line is they took advantage of it. And God bless them for taking
yeah,
advantage of it. I think a better quarterback we would not have resulted in all those interceptions. For
yeah.
sure.
I agree. I
Um,
wouldn't, I wouldn't, I wouldn't argue that.
Yeah, yeah. So, what else do we want to talk about on defense? I think we need to address, the run game. Of course, it's kind of the same old, same old. As we thought, Jordan Howard ran all over us. It's kind of lucky that he only had as many carries as he had. He was only had 18 carries because he was headed for a big game.
Yeah,
It's the same old story in that the defensive line does not have the talent and athletic ability to stand up and get penetration against stouter offensive lines that are good at run blocking. They're limited athletically, and I think that's the problem. Even Chris Baker didn't have a very good game today. He had a couple good plays early, but by and large, when you have that problem, and then you stack the problem on top of two athletic non-athletic linebackers. And I know Will Compton's not your favorite guy in the world, to say
yeah,
the
that's
least.
true.
It's a serious problem, and that's why we keep getting run
And I,
on. And that's what
Yeah,
happened today.
I agree, and I think a few times early on and throughout the game in general, there was opportunities for these guys to make a play, and they chose that route instead of staying disciplined and I think that's what hurt these guys the most, that they like discipline. They tried to play hero ball, especially on the line. I saw I want to say Trent Murphy. He tried to cut inside the tackles a couple times, and these are plays that Jordan Howard bounced to the outside. This was early on. I can't remember the specific play, but Trent Murphy tried to make a play a couple times with quickness, and he got beat because he didn't stay disciplined. It's just things like that where you play sound for the most part, and then it's those few plays where they like, okay, I can make this play if I do this one move right here, and it just hurts the team in general. And I think that this has been happening all year. Outside of the fact that what you said, like they do lack talent as well. And it's hard for them to shed blocks, especially Will Compton, who I saw him get hemmed up a couple times by these linemen. And you need inside linebackers who's physical enough and is not afraid to stick his nose into a play and make a play. So I definitely agree with your assessment, and this is just something that's going to have to change in the offseason. We're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing that can be done about it now. Unless do you have anything else on defense? Otherwise, let's move to injuries.
Just one quick thing. I think
Go
well,
ahead.
actually I do want to ask you, going
Sure.
against the Giants next week, just based on this performance, I think what are your thoughts? Because a quick little nugget, obviously, because this is a post game on the Bears. But I just feel like this week,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for Mac Barkley, like you stated, I just think that we were playing a bend but don't break style, but they were moving the ball throughout the game. And Matt Barkley, at
Yeah,
one
they
point,
were.
I think going into half, he had 9 completions for 175 yards, which is something to be said right there. So, what do you think about this Giants game? Who's an offense that's been struggling basically all year? Been carried by the defense.
Well, yeah, I don't. First of all, I don't think we can count on Eli Manning to throw 5 interceptions
Definitely.
because you're exactly right about the Bears, and that this game would have been drastically different with a different quarterback because they were moving the ball, and we pointed this out on the preview. Hey, you did the preview with
Yes.
us, right, this week? I think you
Yes.
did. We talked about the fact that their turnover ratio was what was killing this team. They were -11, and it proved that they're obviously worse after today's game, but they proved it. But in terms of the Giants, first of all, the Giants will play us a lot tougher just
Yeah.
naturally. I think Eli Manning's a far better. Eli's got his issues, and his numbers don't necessarily bear this out on a career, but he's a far better quarterback than
Matt Barkley.
Matt Barkley. Yeah, I mean, they have Rashad Jennings, who is not having a great year
It's their rookie. That's the
necessarily.
problem. Perkins. I think that's his name.
Yeah, well, I was about to go to Perkins. Perkins has got 354 yards on the year, rushing. Um, I think the problem with the Giants fundamentally is that they're far more balanced, than the Bears. Alshon Jeffrey's a talent, yeah, granted, but I don't know if he's Odell Beckham. And Odell has given Josh Norman
Oh my
fits,
goodness, yeah, the
over
first
the
game.
years. Famously fits for a couple of years now. So I think it's a whole different ball game next week. Now, hopefully, maybe the Giants will rest some players.
Yeah,
We may catch the Giants in a mental state that they're not at their peak simply because they really don't have anything to play for. So
understood.
it's going to be definitely a different situation simply because we can't count on Eli to be as bad as Matt Barkley
Definitely.
was
But
today.
we'll see how that is
So
later on in the week. What that's
yeah,
looking like.
injury wise, I couldn't find a lot of info on injuries other than what we saw in the game. Spencer Long went out but came back in. Rob Kelly, it looked like a lower leg type of problem. No word on that. Terrence Garvin went out. Bashad Breeland went out and had a knee problem. No word on that. Deshaun Jackson looked like he was kind of the ugliest injury of the day. Apparently, according to the Twitter update I just saw, he had a hit to the jaw, and that was the issue with Deshaun Jackson. So more on that, details at 11 on that. Dante Whitner was banged up. Greg Toller was banged up there in the late in the game. So that's injuries for the Redskins. We don't have any, unless you do, Jamal. I don't have any updates other than that
Yeah,
on
no, no
injuries.
updates. I'm just glad as
All right.
far as the team that we got away basically. We got we got away with a clean slate in terms of the level of seriousness in the injuries.
Well, depending on what that D-Jax injury
Yeah,
is,
he came, but he came
but
back in after that.
yeah, he did. So,
I'll just assume that it's not serious. That's all.
if it's not a broken jaw, I think he's
Yeah,
going to be fine. So, you want to do game
yeah, man, let's do
balls?
that.
All right, game balls. You can go for. Are you ready to go? I'm still thinking about my game
No,
balls.
I'll go.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
my game ball for the defense, I'll start with that. Because this one is obvious for
Yeah.
me. Is Preston Smith. Like I said, I think he was behind. If it wasn't three, I said three earlier. If it wasn't three, it had to be two. But I do know he was behind a couple of the turnovers that was forced for the Redskins, and I think that this is one of the guys who we've been getting on as a fan base and even the coaches all season long. This is somebody that we wanted to step up in place of the Junior Gillette, because he was hurt. He was out for the season. Preston Smith wasn't going to be in that role early on. And obviously he had to take Junior's spot, and I think throughout the season he's been uh, absent for most part of the games. His best game was against the Vikings. This game he showed up again. He delivered. He had one sack, but he had a few pressures, and obviously they were huge. So that was my game ball for the defense. For the offense, it's kind of hard because I would just say the offensive line if I had to, because
I gave a game ball to offensive line
oh
earlier
yeah,
this season, so feel
okay,
free.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give it to them. Excuse me. For the simple fact that these guys were able to churn out. Sorry about that. These guys were able to churn out 200 yards on the ground. They had Kirk Cousins. Pretty much. You said he didn't get sacked in the game, correct?
Preston?
Kirk
I'm
Cousins.
sorry,
Sorry
who?
about that.
Oh, no, he didn't get sacked in
Yeah.
this
So
game. Is
yeah,
that what
yeah.
you're asking me? I'm sorry. I was trying to look for
No, I
injury
understand. It's
updates.
all good. So yeah, I just feel like the offensive line did a hell of a job. They established a ground game. They were physical up front, and Kirk helped keep Kirk Cousins clean. And obviously, Rob Kelly and Mac Brown had huge days because of that. So I give it to the offensive line. I would say Kirk Cousins. I would say Djax, but
All right.
obviously I got to give it to where it counts, and I think that's the offensive line.
All right, fair enough. Well, my game ball is going to go to Kirk. For I think the second time this year I've given him game ball, and the reason is, his completion percentage wasn't the best. For him it was only 62%
Yeah,
completion percentage, but that's okay. That's not a terrible. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. But he showed a lot of guts today, and he
absolutely.
expanded the horizons of how he played today. Like you pointed out earlier, he scrambled. He scrambled successfully. 15 yards at a pop. Either that read option / naked
Yeah,
boot, play at the end showed a lot of guts, and it showed athletic ability. And I think that unlike some other games, he was maybe the biggest contributor to the win at least from the offensive
Definitely.
standpoint, was the way Kirk played. And I give an honorable mention to Bashad Breeland. Welcome home, Bashad. Because he certainly had the 2 interceptions. He did look better today, and he's had, like you said, an up and down season. So honorable mention to Bashad Breeland. Honorable mention to Preston Smith. Honorable mention to Rob Kelly for having a good game in 3 quarters. We really need
Definitely.
him. So those are my game balls. My game ball, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
So that's
I
my
can't
game ball.
argue. I can't argue with none of that because the guys that you named stepped up huge, and I think that was just a huge effort from the team in general. Like you said when we started our show, it was a complete team effort, and the team won. So the guys that you named the honorable mentions, you can't even argue with that. They all played a hell of a game.
Yep. All right. Well, unless you have anything else, for us?
Nope. I'm good to go, man. I'm just
All
ready to
right.
get on these stuff my face tomorrow. With this holiday food, man.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Everybody, we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah.
Happy
If you guys
holidays, y'all.
celebrate either of those 2 holidays. Happy holidays. And we will be back on Thursday to preview the last Redskins game of the regular season against the Giants next Sunday. So until then, we will see you later and hail the
Yeah.
Redskins.